now in relation to this campaign, I've been saying to people, I've travelled now something just coming up to 30,000 kilometres, and since the 19th of June. And what is clear is that this country is in a period of reflection. It's going to be very difficult for people to accept that many of the assumptions about the way that society is organised have to be let go and new thinking put in its place. But you can't get lost in recrimination, and it's useless. We have to move on, playing to our strengths and affirming our identity. And one of the things about Galway, which is very, very particular, Galway was always a place where people came in. Now the point about it is you might have been keeping the Flahertys out a long time ago. And still some of them came in. But the truth of it all is that perched where it is, with the people who have come, it's one of the most interesting things, maybe underplayed, that when you talk to people from abroad about why did they locate in Galway, and they very often people say, well, it is the corporation tax, whatever. But that it's talked in so many cases by people saying it is a lovely place to live, a place for your children to be educated in. It is near the sea. There is the car. There is the people, and that quality of life is terribly important. And as we go on now into the next 7 years, and we're crafting out a version of ourselves. It's an Irishness that has to include, for example, the memory and the strength and current reality of all that is around us. Agus sian fáil do bhanig me television a gaige. And comálishin an acton gaige ag trisú tam galéir san cáirse, brought the thought of them. So we have that memory. You also have what I call the Sauli of the Irish, or the imagination. There are new things happening. In every part of the country that I go to, I hear of exciting inventions. I met up in GMIT ages ago a young man who was developing a technology that might be able to move MRI images onto a mobile phone. There is a genius in this country. I was at when you go to the National Ploughing Championships, as I did, and you see people who were in artisan food. And that's why, when I said I am not going to engage in any kind of destructive campaign against any candidate that emerges, that I'm going to offer a positive platform, and I published it on the 1st of May. And I said, this is what I said, look, moving on, we define that our lives will be value-driven, that it will be social, recognizing that we need each other, it's called Kayla, putting it into effect. And then I said this must be a radical, inclusive citizenship we're talking about now, where we'll value people not for what we assumed they owe, but rather because of what they are and what they allow others to be. And then I said this can be in a creative society, and everyone said he's going to talk about arts and culture, but I did say that when I spoke about the importance of arts here in Galway all those years ago, I couldn't have had a better preparation when I became minister than the 10 years in the Galway Mayo Region Arts Committee. And there were people doing things without venues or whatever. But then I turned an abstract idea about access into providing the theatres. And then I said to myself, when you're really thinking about this in the next 7 years, we'll have an Irishness that's very celebratory and warm and about ourselves and genuine and real. And then you take that abroad and people come to see you and say, these are happy people to visit. They're very Irish. And then they will say when you go to Europe, instead of just saying to the new entrants into Europe from Eastern and Central Europe, saying to them like, did you know that we're the second wealthiest people in the world, and if you only change it could be like us. Instead of this kind of strutting, people will say, they are talking in an Irish way about everybody benefit from going forward, about a Europe that is generous and inclusive, that recognises difference and so on. So you get a kind of Irishness that is rewarding at home and that is very viable in Europe and around the world. And when you go around the world, as I have in many cases, what you will see is that people speak. You go to if I was in the Midlands, as I have been, and they're talking about soldiers who went to the Middle East. Irish soldiers who have been building peace everywhere, humanitarian workers who are working abroad. The most generous country in Europe providing more people in response, more gifts and more donations in response to something like the Somalia famine is an island. These are all aspects that are very viable. They are our strengths abroad. So I have said the inclusive citizenship in a creative society, defining an Irishness, and then when we come to these celebrations that are going to happen and recalling things like the Declaration of Independence, that we will do so with inclusion and with generosity. For example, there are people, as you have seen in all the books appearing recently, who died in the Great War. There are people who fought together to found this country and then divided, as my own family did in the Civil War. There are many, many things in which we will be able to be tested ethically. And all of the time about it is, if you ask me to find one place where it was always possible to come and talk about, for example, not only the practical material things of life, but how to enjoy life and what was important in life and feel warm about life, Galway has an immense advantage. And that's why I really feel after, as I take off again this weekend for the next phase of the campaign, and my next debate is next Tuesday on TV3, it's enormously valuable and supportive to me to have your support in whatever way. And particularly because, of course, the campaign costs as it does. Our cost will be about 320,000. To run a real campaign with advertising posters, about 78 to 80,000. And to do that campaign, it comes in just short of 500,000. Your contributions make it possible for me to have a campaign that carries the message that I hope defines a presidency that you will all be proud of. Thank you very much.